Joel Lalgee and Marcus Sawyer welcome you to AI and Recruiting, the show where they break down how AI is transforming hiring, leadership, and the future of work. Expect real talk, smart tools, and bold conversations with the people shaping what's next. Let's get into it.
Ray Culver, welcome. Great to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Marcus. Thanks for having me on today. This is going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, Ray has been in the industry for many years, and he has spent time on different sides of the ecosystem, had various leadership roles and positions. But for those of you who haven't had a chance to connect with Ray, I'd love it if, Ray, you could just spend a little bit of time talking a bit about your background and also some of the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in and around the staffing industry for 32 years plus now. So I've earned every gray hair on my head that I have from this industry. Served in positions with Randstad, with Manpower Group, so with your large globals. Also served in startup tech firms. So it's been fun to see kind of the different avenues that make up the talent ecosystem. Currently, I started my own consulting firm in 2019, Celia Solutions Group. And I also serve as the global managing director for Talent Partners, which is a UK-based talent insights and really a connector organization. So that's what's keeping me busy these days.
Amazing. Well, I think a wide variety and breadth of perspectives, which also makes you just a fantastic advisor. And I know for some of the work that we've been engaged in over the years, as well as being a partner and being a customer, and also just being somebody that we can exchange ideas from, I've certainly got value. So any of you that haven't connected with Ray, you should go and do that immediately. I want to talk a little bit about this big topic or small topic, however you want to call the great restructuring. A lot happening at once. And I think that's why it is the great restructuring, right? So we've got geopolitics, we've got this small technology that's got two words starting with an A, ending in an I. And we then also have just a lot of shifts in mindset, mentality as well. But you get to see a lot. And I'd love to hear from your perspective and also talent partners, how are staffing firms and also just widely the ecosystem adapting to the AI driven change so far?
I think it really runs the spectrum. I mean, you have some staffing companies and other companies, TA leaders and others who are very broadly adopting it, and they're really leaning into it to figure out, hey, how can this help me? How can this help my team? If I'm an owner operator, how can it help my company and perhaps my bottom line? You have some leaders who are sticking their toe in it. So like, let's put it in perspective. You have some who are building their own agents. So like they're all in. They're like, hey, we're going to build our army. You have some who are like, we're going to automate. We're going to automate a few phone calls here and there. So they're sticking their toe in it. And then you have some who I think are, they're a bit more cautious and they're like, I'm going to wait and see if what happens with this, like all the legality and compliance and things that you hear about. So it really runs the spectrum, I think, as to where a company is on the adoption.
Yeah, it's one of those topics which really depends, again, on the people inside of those organizations and maybe those folks' biased or unbiased perspectives, experiences, and people that they connect with, and also the generation that they find themselves in. How do you think about that as well, maybe having an impact?
I think the generation is an interesting topic to bring up because I think a lot of people who are younger in their career, let's say in the staffing industry, and we have these conversations at a lot of our events that we host, younger in their career, again, they're all into it. Like, how can I leverage AI? If I'm in sales or if I lead sales organizations, how can I leverage it to pack the top of the funnel, to give me more insights, to make me smarter, to get me and my team ready for calls and things like that? Some of the folks who have been around for a little bit longer, like myself, I'll throw myself into that bucket. I'm an adopter. I mean, I love AI, but I'll throw myself in there. They're a bit more cautious, and we've even had conversations. I was hosting a dinner in Chicago, and probably 15 senior leaders from staffing firms. This side of the table was, we'll call it old school, and I'll put myself in that group because I'm old. Old school over here, been doing it for a long, long time. And the younger, more coming up side was over there. It was not playing that way.
Sure.
But this side was all about, being more cautious, taking a much more cautious approach, whereas that side was like, no problem. Like, how
Yeah.
can we automate? How can we, make things easier? So I think the generational issue or item is of interest.
So I remember these similar discussions maybe like 18 years ago when the internet was a big
Mm.
topic, specifically for the staff and recruiting space. And I was at careerbuilder.com, and there were these discussions around CareerBuilder that's just recently, unfortunately, went bankrupt,
Yeah.
having such a big impact on the staff and recruiting industry. There was going to move everything. And then the same thing happened again when LinkedIn came out, and there was like an empowerment and enablement. Is this time different now, or is this time a similar time to what happened in the advent of the internet, in your opinion?
Funny because you mentioned the internet, and then I think you mentioned very specific pieces of it, like a career builder, like a job board. Well, sure, like a LinkedIn. I think AI is so big and so all encompassing that I think there's so much room for it that I compare it to the internet, I guess. I mean, that's that is of that size. But no, I think that this is AI is very similar to the MSP, we'll say 20 years ago. Either it's coming and it's going to work its way into every piece of the business. So either get on the train or you're going to get left behind. And I mean, it's a very simplistic way to look at it, but it's either adopt it and figure out how to use it and how to harness the power, or your competitors are going to, and you're not gonna be able to survive.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes into one of the next questions that I wanted to ask is like, what are the risks if you don't adopt the AI inside of your organization?
Mm. I mean, when you look at the different benefits that it can give to an organization, whether it is, some type of cost cutting or some type of efficiency, is that type of thing. If you don't adopt it and your competitor does adopt it, I mean, you're going to be left behind just from that sheer point right there. In a world having to do with staffing and talent that's moving like lightning fast, if you're losing efficiency, if you're not able to get in touch with and touch the talent, within minutes, again, your competitor is doing that. So I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is you really have to think, if I don't figure out how to use it and begin to adopt it, and my competition is, how am I going to stay competitive?
Yeah, and it sounds to me as well, like a big part of our industry has been speed. And
Yeah.
I had a conversation today, but generally speaking, it's always also coupled with quality, because you
Yeah.
can be super fast, but if you're not precise, that has a big impact. And that's one thing I would take up my hat off to our industry overall, is like, as far as like being precise, especially when it comes to numbers
Yeah.
and getting a percentage point here or 0.2 here or 0.5. I mean, we see it with the EORs, the MSPs, the RPOs, like really kind of figuring out where that position is in terms of how to manage the business. I think if you were to think about like kind of maybe another side of the work where you're talking to HR tech platforms, um, and also staffing firms, it's kind of balancing two hats. Where have you seen AI, or are you hearing about AI making the most significant impact?
From HR and TA leaders, they are really looking for ways to make their teams, again, I go back to that word, kind of more efficient, be able to do more. And, when you have some type of AI that you can incorporate into your work process or your workflows, and you can all of a sudden, it turns into like a great multiplier. If I can touch 1,000 candidates in a time that, in minutes, basically, it would take my team weeks to touch 1,000 candidates. And so if you can leverage that, and then the output from AI, like some of the data and how do you utilize the data, I think TA and HR leaders are also trying to figure out, and they're doing a really good job of, how do they take that data that's coming out of it and really leverage that to get more of a seat at the table. So I mean, that's um, they're starting to embrace it. I've talked to several very, very large companies where the leaders themselves, they're excited about it. They want to turn on all these different pieces of different tools that they have, which would leverage AI But it's funny how so many of them, their legal departments and their compliance is just like, no. So
Yeah.
that's a hurdle we have to get over.
Yeah.
Is all those the preconceived, well, this is an issue or this is a legality. We just have to figure out how to either get over that or figure out how to make the legal minds comfortable with that.
Yeah. I think risk comes with any change. And also then the question is like, does the reward outweigh that risk? And one of the things you also said that I thought was really profound, which we're talking about the great restructuring, but you also mentioned the great multiplication is, as I would put
Yeah.
it, right? So how can you enable yourself or your company to spend more time if you are more service orientated in those service areas and multiply your talents?
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been thinking about a fair amount. Anything else that you want to mention on that topic before we shift gears into leadership and legacy?
Yeah, just I mean that I do think and I've read so much of your stuff, and you and I talk regularly. That I mean, this is truly a moment for our industry, and when I say our industry, really the entire talent ecosystem. And it's just a moment that everything is shuffling, and everything is your AI is coming in, different technologies are coming in, and people are having to figure out how to work with it. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out, you know, in that restructure
Yeah.
and what's on the other side. So no, it's very timely.
Well, I think one of the reasons you and I continue to have conversations is just a shared admiration, I suppose, for perspective and seeing things from different points of views. And you're able to do that in your work, whether it's the staffing side, the TA side, the advising side. But one of the things that I know you as, Ray, is a really great go-to-market leader and executive. And you've not only done that in the US, but also done that in Europe. So if you were to kind of share one of the key lessons that you've learned in terms of going to market within our industry, and you can take whichever perspective you want, what are some of the key lessons or learnings that you would like to leave those folks listening with?
I think, and this is it's going to tie back to technology. I really think that going to market, figuring out how to leverage as much technology as possible. And that's not to say that we are a people business. And I think we will always be a people business. There's got to be the figuring out of the AI plus HI intersection and what is kind of the perfect intersection for it to have. But as far as what I would tell an advisory client is lean into as much tech as possible. For instance, if you are looking to open a staffing firm, how can you leverage almost every piece of technology in the market today? Because there's so much to almost think of building this staffing firm up the future. So you're kind of building Superman, or you're building, what was that $8 million man or whatever when we were kids. You're building this thing and you're taking just a little of this and a little of that. And that's a superpower.
Yeah.
And I know you love to talk about superpowers. But I mean, that's a superpower. If you can leverage that and figure out how to build that and make it work, that's the future, man.
Well, look, I think some of the points that you've mentioned today that I'm hearing are very much around like the workflow and ensuring that you build in that technology into your workflow, not just technology for technology's sake, but
Yeah.
just from the conversations we've had now, I've seen you operate is precision as well. So we've got to make sure that we bring that in at the right point in time, as well as balancing some of the risks. Like, how do we come over that? And I feel like it's just more of an optimistic mindset. This is a technology that's available. If we were to start from scratch today, if you and I to build a staffing firm or we to build a company, what would it look like? Now, that might be one end of the spectrum, and then we're at the complete other end. And how do we kind of get further along there? Because we know these things are the right things to do. So, yeah, that's kind of how I think about it as well.
Yeah. And I agree. I think for folks who have been in the industry to be able to step back and say, okay, where could we insert like a AI or some type of technology to make the business and to make the industry better? Because I think we should all be looking at, what it is that has built our careers and say, okay, how can we make it better? How can we do this better? And to your point about precision and things like that, there's a lot of AI and automation out there. A great one is sequences, and we all get them. We all get them in our mailbox. the first time it misses and, dear blank or dear whatever, those are the little things that I think you would think would have been solved for that haven't been solved for completely. Those are the little things that I think we have to get better at. When I say
Yeah.
we, the technology.
Absolutely. I think that detail is key, and especially when you are selling to people that have been sold to multiple times and they're looking at that competitive advantage, right? And if you've got a human that's reaching out and they're extremely precise, they're thoughtful, which is a word we use in our industry a lot. Are they being thoughtful? Are you being thoughtful about how you use the technology and where you use it and for what? And I think earlier on what we said is like you've got to start using it to be thoughtful because you have to refine it to your process. And there's a reason why the AI models, when we first brought them out, they had fine tuning. The fine tuning was based on the context and the environment that you find yourself in. We are coming towards the end of our segment already, but I've got also a final question I wanted to ask you around the seasoned industry leaders that many of the you're connected to, you collaborate with, and they're thinking about mentorship and also knowledge transfer. So how should they think about that within the age of AI and automation?
It's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking, I've heard this multiple times, how I'll take it back to how so many staffing leaders are leveraging, let's say, AI and automation for sourcing. So it's like, how are we growing our next group of recruiters if we automate all the sourcers? So I think it's just very important for us as leaders and us as mentors to really help people to figure out kind of what is their calling. So like, do you have to start as a sourcer? And I mean, like, can you go straight into recruiting? And that's just an example, but just really help folks to understand, what is your calling? Where are you going to be most impactful in the business? And also from an AI perspective, really leaning into AI. It is the way of the future. So, I mean, you have to figure out, what is the saying about AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will take your job. To me, that's what we should be, really mentoring and offering as leadership, is start using AI, start embracing things from the very beginning, and you should be just fine.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And one thing that I'll add is I've seen a huge opportunity for reverse mentoring to take place now, where we have folks internally that may not have had that entry level opportunity, but because or in spite of AI. But if you give them AI, they're the ones that can actually teach you about the capabilities around it. And so really, really partnering with the new generation coming in versus saying, hey, like, this is where you should start, because those folks are going to want to get into the industry at some point. And we have to continue to grow and thrive. Well, Ray, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for all the insights and also your knowledge. Where can people find you if they want to get connected with you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. It is Ray Culver. I think there's maybe a few out there, but I'll be the one with Celia Solutions Group and Talent Partners. I'm quite active on socials, so you'll definitely see me on LinkedIn somewhere. Also, they can check out two websites. One would be allthingsgig.net, and the second would be talentpartners.com.
Perfect. Well, Ray, once again, thank you for your time and providing insights. I'm sure the audience are having a lot of thoughts around where they can leverage AI in their workflow and their processes, how they can continue to transfer knowledge, and also just really ensure that we double down on our talents in the industry. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in your network, your team, your boss, or that recruiter still stuck in 2015. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss what's next in hiring and AI. Until next time.